Number 55. The Unbearable Lightness of Being. I am Nate Jackson, Criterion guy. And this is Philip Kaufman's The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Almost no relation to Milan Kundera's Unbearable Lightness of Being, according to sources. Oh god. Oh dear lord, this one's... It's not solo bad. It in no ways is this solo bad, because first of all it's in English. So it was easy to skip bits that were, the long and strenuous bits that were, was painful to watch. And it wasn't painful, it was just tedious. Tedious is the word. This is a very tedious movie. The Unbearable Lightness of Being is one of the most tedious movies I've ever seen. It doesn't help that it's 3 hours long. Seven Samurai was 3.5 hours long, and they were like, it was, and Kurosawa nailing it out the park with his action and humor and just dialogue and just great, just moving storyline. And this just jumps all over the place. And I take it, of course, I take it out because otherwise you're just looking at this and this doesn't tell you nothing. So hey, not that Lena Olin is very attractive. She ain't that friggin' attractive. Not even on the cover. But yeah, basically this movie, was it from 1988, 88, 89, whatever. So this movie, I'm trying to remember what it's about, because as I was trying to watch this one, I kept getting interrupted by crap in my life. So you'll forgive me if I don't remember everything about this, but at the same time, it's really hard to pay attention to this one for very long. It's about this doctor, and it's set in 1968 Prague, and it's about this doctor named Tomáš, who has an open relationship with some like girl painter or something named Sabina. I think her name is Sabrina. We'll just call her Sabrina. And at the same time, he's a bit of a womanizer. He's a womanizer, but she, I guess, understands that, they have an open relationship, more or less. And one day he's in this little village and he meets this waitress named Teresa, who gives him a drink or something, and he becomes very enamored by her, and he follows her, and he ends up coming over to her place and under the guise of an actual doctor, and they end up making love afterwards. And Teresa soon finds out about Sabrina and is confused, but also interested in the fact that he is a womanizer and he's not a one-woman person, and also she's also, of course, very jealous. So there's this relationship that isn't really well developed after a while. Teresa is a photographer who is paid by some magazine to take photos of things. She's mainly focusing on still life and action shots. At one scene where she takes many photos of a revolution that's happening. And in one scene, there's another scene where when she takes the photos in, she ends up getting them discarded by her boss, who and then the coworker suggests she takes nude photos, so she asks Sabrina to pose for her, and she does it under the condition that Teresa will propose for Sabrina nude. So there's this whole relationship. But meanwhile, I went into this thinking that it was mostly about sex. This was the 1988 version of Blue is the Warmest Color, which I'm not, like I said, I'm not looking for. I'm complaining about Blue is the Warmest Color, but honestly, I'll probably be dead by the time I get to that one. But anyway, but we're talking about Unbearable Lightness of Being. So yeah, so Tomáš is a very free-spirited guy. He doesn't seem to care much about getting in trouble or other people's feelings. He just more or less just does what he can for himself. And he's also a bit of a writer too. At one point, he writes an article about the Czechoslovakian government, I think, about comparing them to Oedipus, the story of Oedipus, and how they should all gouge their eyes out. And at one point, because of like the war in Prague or something, so they all three of them have to leave. Sabrina leaves first, and then Teresa and Tomas leave later together. And at some point, Teresa and Tomas. Well, Tomas loses his job and ends up becoming a window cleaner, and a window cleaner who ends up still sleeping with the people he cleans windows with. Teresa's upset by this, so she leaves him and goes back to Prague or wherever she came from, I guess. And he can't practice when he gets back to where he came from. He can't practice his doctor anymore because the government like blacklisted him for that article. So that's why he has to become a window cleaner. So I've gotten everything mixed up. Yeah, but she goes back to, I think, Prague, and so he chases after her, and like they lose their passports because they go back in to the country. They have to surrender their passports or something. And while all this is, Sabrina's having like has an affair with the professor that she has some affair with some professor, and and so meanwhile Tomas and Teresa actually really fall in love, and they end up running away to like this little village where a friend of Tomas's has a cottage or farm that they stay at, and they help with the chores and all that, and they live there with their dog, and they end up having to put the dog down after a while, and he ends up having it after one night after Tomas saves this workhand's shoulder, like he dislocates his shoulder, so he pops it back into place. They all go out and get drunk, and the next thing we see is Sabrina like doing like this airbrush painting for this American couple, and she gets a letter from someone over in Austria or Prague, wherever they're from, and saying that Tomas and Teresa were killed in a car accident, and she's very saddened by this. But at the same time, the idea is that because they found their happiness, they died together and they died happy. Because after that they show like their last few seconds together as they're driving off, and they have like a little like loving conversation. And it just shows the thing, and the screen gets wider and wider, and that's how it ends. It's pathetic. I think there were a number of things. The number of things that I couldn't get. First of all, I think one thing that I really didn't care much for was the fact that I had a really hard time believing that it was 1968 Prague. Of course, I've never been there, and I've never been nowhere near being born in 1968 Prague or 1968. But at the same time, it still seems so modern. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the geography or how culture developed in 20 years, the 20 years between the setting of that film versus the making of the film. But yeah, it just felt really fake and bizarre. The only thing that really, got me personally into the mood of the setting and the time was the scene where Tomas, Teresa, and Sabrina and a friend of theirs are all at this dance where all these teenagers are dancing to American music, and I think that's what really bugged me, is because the band is playing Buddy Holly's "That'll Be the Day," which has nothing to do with 1968. By that point, I mean, I guess if they were importing like American music to these kids, why are they playing just "That'll Be the Day" and like dating themselves so many years? Bugged me. That bugged me. That scene will bug me. Apart from that, it just felt too like it could have been. It just felt like, why didn't they just set it in 1988? But yeah, apart from that, like I said, it's tedious. This movie is relentlessly tedious. There are so many scenes where there's like 10 minutes, 5 minutes of no dialogue. Um, it just goes on and on and on. There's scenes where this really long. I think, yeah, probably the most painful scene is the scene where Teresa and Tomas are in the middle of the Revolution Square, and she's taking photos, and it's all in like, it turns into like this black and white film style, and it just, yeah, it's bizarre. And I think they tried to fit in different old footage of the riots or something, and it doesn't work for me. I think another thing is, and you know, it's funny, this is a shame because Daniel Day-Lewis and Juliette Binoche are really good actors, or actor and actress, if you will. I mean, Lena Olin, I didn't care much for her, you know, whatever. But they're really good actors that I know from other movies, and you know, it was a shame to know that this, you know, to see that they weren't, you know, I mean, as far as acting is concerned, they were okay, but especially the sex scenes were embarrassing. The sex scenes were pathetic. On the cover of this, it says, the most erotic, serious film since Last Tango in Paris. I think, well, and Roger Ebert said that. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't think it was very, I mean, it had sex scenes, but not as many as I thought it would. I mean, Last Tango in Paris, yes, that's dirty as hell. That's horrible, you know. And I hope to God it ain't ever gonna be on the Criterion collection, because we'd have a field day. Anyway, so yeah, I wasn't feeling this one. Sadly, it ran on way too long, so long that, you know, even though this isn't the Criterion edition, I don't know how they did it, but they had to put both the movie, they split the movie up down the middle, or like after the 2 hour mark, they shoved you onto the other side of the disc after the 2 hour mark. They says, please insert disc 2 to continue watching The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is like, okay, Warner Brothers, it's kind of interesting there. Interesting move on your part. So yeah, I gotta stop talking about this because it wasn't good. This movie really sucked. Like I said, it's not Solo bad, and to be quite honest, and on a personal note, I think the first sex scene between Tomas and Teresa was actually kind of hot. I think Juliette Binoche's screams were a little off-putting, just a little. But yeah, D-. I can't give it an F. Can't give it an F, but no, you know, I'm gonna give it a D. I'll give it a D. I'll give it a D because for that sex scene was pretty good. And God, there was another, and the whole deal with the pig was kind of cute. The pig was cute. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's not a very good thing. And apparently, the author said that like none of the warmth or like any of the, like, you know, really emotional drive in the novel was portrayed in the movie. So that's why he, like, I guess this was the last of his novels to be, you know, have a film adaptation. None of them, all the others stayed novels. So yeah, don't do it. Don't even bother. If you need to, go onto the web and look up the sex scenes if you want to, but that's the best you're gonna get out of me. So yeah, Unbearable Lightness of Being, D. Bah. Sorry, Kristen, if you're watching this. Kristen likes this. Anyway, so next, let's move on. Next, 39 Steps, number 56, the 39 Steps. It's only 86 minutes, and when I saw that, I thought, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, because I got time tomorrow. But there's a hell of a lot of supplements. Because it's only 86 minutes, they probably filled up the rest of the disc with supplements. So I'm just like, you know, I might look at it and see how many there are, and there's a very, 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 very slim chance we'll do this tomorrow. Otherwise, you can expect it probably Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Sometime before the end of the week, we'll do this one, just because I want to knock it out. And then 57, Charade is here, Charade, and we'll do that one probably the day after 39 Steps. Peeping Tom and Night Porter are at the library. I just need to get them. Autumn Sonata, I put a hold on it. I probably might not be able to get to that one until the end of June, depending on when all the people who have it checked out turn it in. And then after that, I think is Life of Brian. Ooh, I'm excited. I think that's the first time I've smiled all throughout this career. Criterion Collection review. And for that, once again, Life of Brian. Can't wait. But yeah, anyway, so thanks for watching, and better than Solo, but not by much. Yeah. If you really want to see Juliette Binoche act, go see Chocolat, or I don't want to say Damage now. Or Certified Copy. Certified Copy, which is, I mean, I say that like I've seen it, but I will see it. It's one of the, I just saw it. It's one of the Criterion later ones. It's like number in the 600s or 300s or something like that. Certified Copy is another one she's in. And if you want to see Daniel Day-Lewis act, Lincoln. And on that note, that's all. Good night, and we will see you maybe tomorrow, or we will see you before the end of the week for the 39 Steps. And until then, goodbye.